At the end of July and the beginning of August, we've seen that the stock market has been facing quite some rough time, where we've seen that on the 24th of July, the Nasdaq has been down by more than 3%, its worst day since the end of 2022. Influential personalities such as Warren Buffett have already started to reduce some of their positions in big companies, where we can notice that in the second quarter of 2024, Warren Buffett has trimmed down close to 50% of its position in Apple. So what exactly is going on right now? This is the question that we'll be answering in today's video, where we will explore together what are the different causes that have made this massive market correction and how personally I am preparing for the rest of 2024 on the market. But before you discover what is my personal investment strategy for the rest of the year, let's see what has caused this massive switch of momentum on the different markets. First, it is important to note and understand that there are not only one source that can explain this massive assets wipeout that has liquidated many hundreds of billions of dollars in a few days. However, by far one of the most important factors is the recession fear. A few weeks ago, we've seen that the July 2024 job report has been posted, which showed that the labor market is cooling down and that still remains somehow stable. Indeed, throughout this report, we've seen that the US market has had over 114,000 new jobs in the month compared to 179,000 new jobs in June. Add to this, the US unemployment rate has ticked up to 4.3% in July compared to 4.1% in June, which is the highest point since October 2021, and which is also illustrating the fact that the labor market is cooling down. This could also represent a certain indicator that the Federal Reserve in their next meeting at the beginning of September could start to lower the interest rate to restart the economy. And so July's more recent employment report was the first signal in a long time that our thus far resilient economy may be on some slightly shakier ground than economists predicted. Some of the increase in the unemployment rate comes from normalization from unusual, unsustainable, and inflationary low, but the labor market is clearly no longer normalizing. Further deterioration could set off a massive cycle of job losses, consumer spending declines, business revenue declines, and more job cuts. Usually, the answer of households during these types of periods is to tighten their belt and reduce their spending. And so this basically means less economic activity, which could indicate that a recession is lurking in the shadow. An indicator that is often used to determine whether or not we are close from a recession is called the SAM recession indicator, which simply measures the current unemployment rate compared to what it was 1 year ago. By stating that the 3 months average US unemployment rate rise by 0.50% or more from its 12-month low, a recession is underway. It has been able to predict pretty much every single time over the last couple of decades if a recession was on its way. And so while this indicator keeps growing month after month since a few months now, we can understand why so many specialists are forecasting a recession in the near future. Another important event that has had a worldwide impact on the global markets is the fact that the Bank of Japan has been increasing for the second time this year their policy rate. The objective behind increasing the cost of borrowing for only the second time in over 17 years comes in an attempt to normalize its monetary policy and the value of the currency, the yen. Indeed, over the last couple of years, we've seen the value of the yen compared to other international currencies such as the US dollars massively diminish. This was mainly created because of divergent monetary policy from the Bank of Japan compared to its other peers. But the problem with that is that it has widely opened the door for what is called some currency arbitrage. Arbitrage is the process where one investor will be buying a certain security on one market and then selling it at a higher price in another market. And so while the interest rates remain quite low in the Japanese economy over the last couple of years, this hasn't been the case in other important countries such as in Canada and in the US, where we've assisted to massive and multiple hikes of the interest rates. This means that many investors could simply borrow the yen at a super low interest rate, let's say 0.50%. Then they could go on the US market and invest it in different treasury bills at a higher interest rate and make some great profit of it. However, the problem with that is that many countries countries such as Canada has already started to lower their interest rate, where the Bank of Japan has started to increase it. And so this caused quite an important problem. The fact that the Bank of Japan has started to increase their interest rates has simply strengthened the value of the yen while it has lowered the value of the US dollar. This means that if you had borrowed yen to invest in US dollars, you would now need to pay back more US dollars to be able to pay back your loan. And so this could create a situation where you'd be short in that case, meaning that you need to pay back your loan pretty fast. For comparison, in the middle of July, you could buy with $1 US over 160 yen, and at the end of the month, you would only be able with $1 US to buy 140 yen. And so this has resulted in trillions of dollars being moved or sold to pay back the loans that were made, which led to an important market sell-off. This also made the Japan stock market, the Nikkei, lost over 12% of its total value during one day, which results in its worst day since 1987. And throughout the same day, we've assisted to an important decrease of the S&P 500 of over 3%. On a brighter note, we've seen that since that event, the stock market has restarted to regrow and recoup its losses from the end of July, which is some pretty good news for the investors. However, when we know that important actors such as Warren Buffett have started to liquidate certain of their positions in some of these big companies, it definitely raised concerns for certain investors, knowing that Warren Buffett is a big advocate of the buy and hold long-term strategy. It means that it is pretty rare to see him make big changes like that in its portfolio. Add to this, when we know that the stock market hasn't stopped to grow since 2 years, where it is currently at its all-time high and up by over 20% since 1 year, it definitely raised some concerns that we could assist to a certain market correction over the next couple of months. Furthermore, an important event coming in at the beginning of September that will have a massive impact on the valuation of the stock market is the Fed meeting. While many specialists believe that it is predicted that the Federal Reserve will start to lower their interest rate, historically it has been proven over the last 20 years that when the Federal Reserve decided to lower the interest rate, well, the S&P 500 will also follow. And so it could be totally normal to expect the same thing to happen this time. In any case, when I see that much uncertainty on the market, I try to remember the wise words of Warren Buffett that notably said, "Be fearful when others are greedy and be greedy when others are fearful." The first thing that you need to keep in mind in these types of situations is to keep your composure when you invest and to not panic sell. Indeed, this is a mistake that is made way too much by many investors and that could become pretty costing in the long term. Time in the market is way more important than timing the market. When we take a look at the example over here on the graph, we have 4 different types of investors. First, we have one that is perfectly timing the market every single time and that is buying at the lowest point possible. So you can understand that it is pretty much impossible to be this type of investor in the long term. Secondly, we have the investor that is doing some dollar cost averaging every single month of the year, regardless of what the market looks like. Then we have one that invests every year at the highest point on the market, which means that it doesn't have the best timing in its case. And finally, we have one that stays in cash and that simply doesn't invest. And so when we take a look at their performance, we can notice that the one that doesn't invest is by far the worst performer. This means that the best way to protect you against a potential recession is to keep investing in well-diversified ETFs or different individual companies every single month. At least it is what personally I am doing every single month, where I am investing in different well-diversified ETFs and stocks for the long term. In fact, if you decide to invest either in stocks, ETFs, or even bonds in the stock market, you should always keep a long-term approach and not a short-term one. It is why for your short-term needs, you need to keep a great emergency fund of between 3 to 6 months of expenses to be able to cover all your different unexpected expenses that could occur. And to do that, what I am personally doing is to invest in a great high-yielding savings account that will give me great interest every single month. This type of account is life-saving for people just like me that invest, for example, in real estate and that have some different unexpected expenses such as plumber issue. But now on your side, talking about investment, if you are looking for what are the best ways to invest your money in the stock market for the rest of 2024, well, check check out the video that's going to be right over here, and I will see you soon. Peace.